Most people think they understand karmic justice. They have heard the word 1,000 times. They have used it in conversation, nodded along when someone mentioned it, maybe even leaned on it for comfort after being wronged. But here is the stunning truth. What the modern world calls karmic justice and what it actually is, at its deepest philosophical and spiritual roots, are so different from each other that they are almost unrecognizable as the same concept. What gets passed around in popular culture is a shadow of something ancient, something staggering, something so philosophically dense and surprisingly complex that even lifelong scholars spend entire careers mining its depths and still surface with new questions. The version most people know, which is the quick, satisfying idea that bad people get what is coming to them, is the tip of an iceberg that goes down further than most people ever think to look. And what lives in the deeper water is genuinely extraordinary. What follows in this video is not the karmic justice of bumper stickers and social media captions. This is the karma of quantum physicists who notice something deeply uncomfortable in their own equations, of Jain monks who believe morality is literally a branch of physics, and of philosophers who found a loophole inside the law of cause and effect, so radical it dissolves the entire framework from the inside out. These are the ideas that mainstream conversations almost never reach. These are the hidden rooms inside a house that people never see from the outside. So for anyone who thought they already knew what karmic justice, or simply just karma, was, this is the part where it gets genuinely, phenomenally interesting. Part 1. The quantum physics parallel. Very few people know that some theoretical physicists, including David Bohm with his concept of the implicate order, propose that the universe has an underlying structure where everything is fundamentally interconnected and that every action leaves an impression on the whole. Bohm never called it karma, but the structural parallel is striking enough that several philosophers of science, including Fritjof Capra in the Tao of Physics, noted the uncomfortable resemblance between Eastern karmic theory and certain interpretations of quantum entanglement. The idea that no action is ever truly isolated or without consequence finds an unexpected echo in modern physics. Part 2. Karma was originally purely ritualistic. This surprises almost everyone. In the oldest layers of the Vedas, the Rig Veda and early Brahmanas, karma simply meant a ritual action. It had nothing to do with moral consequence. It referred specifically to the performance of fire sacrifices. The word karma literally meant work or deed in a purely ceremonial sense. The profound moral and philosophical framework most people associate with karma today was actually a later development, primarily elaborated in the Upanishads around 800 to 400 BCE. The concept essentially underwent a complete philosophical revolution over several centuries, shifting from priestly ritual mechanics to a universal law of moral causality. Most people assume karma has always meant what it means today. It hasn't. Part 3. The Jain concept of karma as literal matter, while Buddhism treats karma as a mental pattern and Hinduism treats it as a spiritual force. Jainism holds a position so radical it stops most people cold when they first encounter it. In Jain philosophy, karma is not metaphorical. It is not psychological. It is a literal, physical, ultrafine matter of actual particles that attach themselves to the soul based on the vibrations generated by thought, speech, and action. The more passionate or violent the action, the stickier and heavier the karmic matter. This gives Jain monks their extreme self-discipline. They are not being symbolically pure. They genuinely believe they are physically purging tangible material from the soul. This makes Jainism perhaps the only major philosophical tradition in the world that treats morality as a branch of physics. Part 4. Karma has a specific ripening time. Most people think of karma as immediate, such as the term instant karma. Very few know about the concept of vipaka, which is the ripening of karma. In both Buddhist and Hindu thought, karmic consequences are not triggered automatically upon the act. The consequences ripen, like fruit on a tree, when the conditions are right. A seed of karma can lie dormant for an entire lifetime, or across multiple lifetimes before the conditions for its expression emerge. This is precisely why young, virtuous people sometimes suffer, and cruel people sometimes die peacefully in old age. The karma has simply not yet ripened. Part 5. The concept of collective karma. While individual karma dominates popular understanding, the concept of samashti karma, collective or group karma, is far older and far less discussed. Communities, families, nations, and even species are understood in certain Vedic and Tibetan Buddhist texts to carry shared karmic trajectories. The suffering of an entire people from famine, war, or cultural collapse was understood not as random misfortune, but as the expression of collective intention patterns built up over generations. The Tibetan teacher Chogyam Trungpa wrote extensively about this, suggesting that the cultural values and collective choices of a society generate a shared karmic field that shapes historical events. This is not fatalism. It implies that collective moral transformation is also possible and consequential. Part 6. Karma can be transferred. One of the most obscure and debated concepts in karmic philosophy is punya dana, which is the transfer of merit. In certain schools of Theravada Buddhism, particularly in Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia, it is believed that karmic merit accumulated through virtuous action can be actively dedicated to and received by another being, including the deceased. This is why Buddhist ceremonies for the dead involve monks performing meritorious acts and the family formally announcing the transfer. Critically, the recipient must be able to feel genuine joy and gratitude upon hearing of the merit, which is a state called anumodana. If they cannot, the transfer fails. This creates a fascinating philosophical wrinkle where karmic justice, usually understood as strictly individual, has an exception clause built into certain traditions that allows for something resembling karmic generosity. Part 7. 3 categories of karma. There is a stunning distinction in types of karma that almost nobody talks about. Hindus break karma into 3 specific categories, including sanchita, prarabdha, and agami karma. Sanchita is a massive cosmic warehouse of every action you have ever committed in every life you have ever lived. It is a mountain. You cannot deal with the mountain directly because it is too big, but prarabdha is the small slice of that mountain that has ripened and is currently active in your present life. It is the handful of seeds that actually got planted this season. The astonishing truth is that you cannot change your prarabdha karma either. You cannot change the circumstances you were born into, or your family, your body, or your initial tendencies. That fruit is already on the tree. You have to eat it, but you have absolute total freedom over how you respond to eating it, and that response is like the librarian, choosing which book comes off the shelf tomorrow. Agami karma is the most important of the 3. It's the karma you are creating right now through your current choices. Part 8. The witness consciousness loophole. In Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual school of Hindu philosophy associated with Adi Shankaracharya, there is a position so philosophically radical that it essentially dissolves karma entirely for the enlightened being. The argument runs like this. Karma only accumulates for an individual self that believes it is a separate agent performing actions. But the deepest nature of consciousness, what Shankaracharya called Brahman, is not an individual self at all. It is the pure, unchanging witness behind all experience. An individual who has fully realized this non-dual nature is, in the most technical philosophical sense, no longer generating karma because there is no separate self left to be the agent of actions. Actions still happen through the body. Consequences still follow, but they do not adhere. This is the state described in the Bhagavad Gita when Krishna tells Arjuna that the truly wise person acts without being the doer. It is perhaps the most sophisticated and dizzying idea in the entire karmic framework. It's the one place where the law of cause and effect meets its own philosophical ceiling. Part 9. The dark night as karmic acceleration. In several mystical traditions, both Eastern and Western, there is an understanding that intensive spiritual practice does not reduce suffering in the short term. It accelerates it. The Hindu concept of tapas, rooted in the Sanskrit word meaning to burn or heat, suggests that genuine spiritual commitment causes dormant karma to ripen faster, essentially forcing unresolved consequences to surface and be faced all at once rather than spread across future lifetimes. The painful periods that sages describe, and what St. John of the Cross called the dark night of the soul in the Christian mystical tradition, are understood in karmic terms not as spiritual failure but as karmic acceleration. The suffering is not punishment, it is the harvest arriving early because the field has been tended well. Very few people who encounter difficulty on a spiritual path are told this. It changes everything about how that difficulty is understood. Part 10. The karma that matters right now. Here is the uncomfortable, wonderful, and ultimately liberating truth that every single one of these ideas points toward when the layers are stripped away. The karma that most urgently needs examining is never someone else's. It is never the person who wronged us, the system that failed us, or the world that seems so bewilderingly and terrifyingly unjust. The only karma we have direct access to, and the only thread in the cosmic loom we actually hold in our own hands, is the one being woven right now, today, and in this moment. These traditions did not spend thousands of years developing some of the most phenomenal and sophisticated philosophical frameworks in human history so that people could use them as a weapon of judgment against others. They were built as a mirror. They were built as something to hold up to oneself, quietly and honestly, and ask, what am I actually putting into the fabric of this universe? What ripples am I sending out that I have not yet had the courage to acknowledge? The universe, according to every tradition explored here, is not indifferent, it is patient, it is precise, and it is always listening. The question was never whether karma is real. The question is what a person chooses to do with the opportunity that karma provides. Because that choice, right here and now, is where enlightenment begins.